A troggle humper for the flesh lump eater. They is always they is always having 50 winks before they go scumping off to hunt human beings in the evening, the BFG said. He stopped for a few moments to let Sophie have a better look. Giants is only sleeping every then and now, he said. Not nearly as much as human beings. Human beings is crazy for sleeping. It is ever occurring to you that human being who is 50 is spending about 20 years of it sleeping fast? I must admit that never occurred to me, Sophie said. You should allow it to occur to you, the BFG said. Imagine it, please. This human being who says he is 50 has been sleeping for 20 years and is not knowing where he is. Not even doing anything. Not even thinking. It is a funny thought, Sophie said. Exactly, the BFG said. So what I was trying to explain to you is that human being who says he is 50 is not 50. He is only 30. What about me? I am 8. You is not 8 at all, the BFG said. Human being babies and chittlers is spending half their time sleeping. So you was only 4. I'm 8, Sophie said. You may think you was 8, the BFG said, but you has spent only 4 years of your life with your little eyes open. You is only 4, and please stop higgling me. Titchy little snapper whippers like you should not be higgling around with an old sage and onions who is hundreds of years more than you. How much do giants sleep? Sophie asked. They is never wasting much time snozzling, the BFG said. 2 or 3 hours is enough. When do you sleep? Sophie said. Even less, the BFG answered. I is sleeping only once in a blue baboon. Sophie, peeping out from her pocket, examined the 9 sleeping giants. They looked even more grotesque now than when they were awake, sprawled out across the yellow plain. They covered an area about the size of a football field, most of them lying on their backs with their enormous mouths wide open. They were snoring like foghorns. The noise was awful. Suddenly the BFG gave a jump in the air. By gumfrog, he cried. I is just having the most wopsy-whiffling idea. What? Sophie said. Wait, he cried. Hold your horse feathers. Keep your skirt on. Just wait to see what I is going to bring about. He galloped off fast to his cave, with Sophie hanging on tight to the rim of her pocket. He rolled back the stone. He entered the cave. He was very excited. He was moving quickly. You stay where you is, in my pocket, Huggy Bee, he said. We is doing this lovely bit of back swashing both together. He laid aside the dream-catching net, but hung on to his suitcase. He ran across to the other side of the cave and grabbed the long trumpet thing, the one he had been carrying when Sophie had first seen him in the village. With the suitcase in one hand and the trumpet in the other, he dashed out of the cave. What is he up to now? Sophie wondered. Peep your head up good, the BFG said. Then you will get a fine winkle of what's going on. When the BFG came nearer to the giants, he slowed his pace. He began moving softly. He crept on his toes towards the ugly brutes. Then they were still snoring loudly. They looked repulsive, filthy, diabolical. The BFG tiptoed around them. He went past the gizzard gulper, the blood bottler, the meat dripper, the child chewer. Then he stopped. He had reached the flesh lump eater. He pointed at him. Then he looked down at Sophie and gave her a big wink. He knelt on the ground and very quietly he opened the suitcase. He took out of it the glass jar containing the terrible nightmarish Trogglehumper. At that point, Sophie guessed what was going to happen next. Ouch, she thought. This could be rather dangerous. She crouched lower in the pocket so that only the top of her head and her eyes were showing. She wanted to be ready to duck out of sight very fast should anything go wrong. They were about 10 feet away when the flesh lump eater's face, or from his face, the snorting noise he was making was disgusting. Every now and then again a big bubble of spit formed between his 2 open lips, and then it would burst open with a splash and cover his face with saliva. Taking infinite care, the BFG unscrewed the top of the glass jar and tipped the squiggling, squirming, fainting scarlet Trogglehumper into the wide end of his long trumpet. He put the other end of the trumpet to his lips. He aimed the instrument directly at the flesh lump eater's face. He took a deep breath, puffed out his cheeks, and then woof, he blew. Sophie saw a flash of pale red go darting towards the giant's face. For a split second, it hovered above his face. Then it was gone. It seemed to have been sucked up the giant's nose. But it had all happened so quickly, Sophie couldn't be sure. We had better be skittling away quick to where it is safe, the BFG whispered. He trotted off for about 100 yards and then stopped. He crouched low to the earth. Now, he said, we is waiting for the gun and the flames to begin. They didn't have to wait long. The air was suddenly pierced by the most fearful roar Sophie had ever heard, and she saw the flesh lump eater's body, all 50 feet of it, rise up off the ground and fall back again with a thump. Then it began to wriggle and twist and bounce about in the most violent fashion. It was quite frightening to watch. "Ew!" roared the flesh lump eater. "Ow! Oh!" "He is still asleep," the BFG whispered. "The terrible, troggle-humping nightmare is beginning to hit him." "Serves him right," said Sophie. She could feel no sympathy for the great brute who ate children as though they were sugar lumps. "Save us!" screamed the flesh lump eater, thrashing madly. "He's after me! He's getting me!" The thrashing of limbs and the waving of arms began more violently on the second. An awesome thing to watch, such as a massive creature having a mighty convulsions. "It's Jack!" bellowed the flesh lump eater. "It's the gruesome Jack! Jack is after me! Jack is whacking after me! Jack is spike-sticking me! Jack is splunch-slinkling me! It's the terrible frip-spritzing Jack! The flesh lump eater was wriggling over the ground with the colossal tortured snake. Oh, spare me, Jack! Don't hurt me, Jack!" "Who's this Jack he's talking about?" Sophie said. "Jack is the only human being all giants is frightened of. They is all absolutely terrified of Jack. They is all hearing that Jack is a famous giant killer." "Save me!" cried the flesh lump eater. "Have mercy on this poor little giant, the beanstalk. He is coming at me with his terrible spikling beanstalk. Take it away, I is begging you. Jack, I is praying you not to touch me with your terrible spiking beanstalk." "Us giants," the BFG whispered, "is not knowing very much about this dreaded human being called Jack. We is knowing only he is famous giant killer, and we is owing something called a beanstalk. We is knowing that the beanstalk is a fearsome thing, and Jack is going to kill us giants." Sophie couldn't stop smiling. "What are you giggling about?" the BFG asked her, slightly nettled. "I'll tell you later," Sophie said. The awful nightmare had now gripped the great brute to such an extent that he was laying his whole body on the ground. "Knots. Do not do it, Jack," he screeched. "I was not eating you, Jack. I swear I was never eating human beings. I never gobbled a single human being in my whole life." "Liar," said the BFG. Just then one of the flesh lump eater's failing fists caught the still fast asleep meat-dripping giant smack in the mouth. At the same time, one of his furiously thrashing legs kicked the snoring, gizzard-gulping giant right into the guts. Both of the injured giants woke up and leaped to their feet. "He is wiping me right in the mouth," yelled the meat tripper. "He is bungwazzling me smack in the guts," shouted the gizzard-gulper. The two of them rushed to the flesh lump eater and began pounding him with their fists and feet. The wretched flesh lump eater woke up in the bang. He awoke straight into the nightmare into another. He roared into battle. And in the bellowing, lumping, rough and tumble that followed, one giant sleeping after another got stepped on or kicked on. Soon all 9 of them were on their feet, having the most almighty free-for-all. They punched and kicked and scratched and bit and butted each other so hard. Blood flowed. Noses went crunched. Teeth fell like hailstones. The giants roared and screamed and cursed. For many minutes the noise of battle rolled across the yellow plain. The BFG smiled a big wide smile of absolute pleasure. "I is loving it when they is all having a good tough and rumble. They'll kill each other, Sophie said. "Never," the BFG said. "These beasts is always bishing and walloping. Soon it will be getting dusky and they will all be galloping off to fill their tummies. They're coarse and foul and filthy," Sophie said. "I hate them." As the BFG headed back to the cave, he said quietly, "We certainly was putting that nightmare to good use, though, wasn't we?" "Excellent use," said Sophie. "Well done, you."